What if I told you that thousands of years before the pyramids were built, there existed cities with running water and sophisticated sewage systems? That while much of the world was still discovering fire, ancient Indian mathematicians had already invented the concept of zero and calculated the circumference of the earth with stunning precision. Tonight, we're traveling back to a civilization so advanced that their surgical techniques wouldn't be surpassed for millennia. Their philosophers asked questions that quantum physicists are still trying to answer, and their artists created beauty so transcendent it can move you to tears across thousands of years. This isn't just another history lesson about dusty empires and forgotten kings. This is the story of how ordinary people, potters, farmers, merchants, and mothers, lived extraordinary lives in a land where every sunset brought the promise of enlightenment, where the air itself seemed infused with possibility, and where the boundary between the material and the mystical dissolved like morning mist over the sacred Ganges. Close your eyes now, and let your breathing slow. Allow yourself to drift back through the mists of time, to a world where wisdom was treasured above gold, where mathematical equations were considered as beautiful as poetry, and where every human activity, from the grandest temple to the humblest meal, was seen as an opportunity to touch the infinite. Take a deep breath, and step with me into the golden light of ancient India, a civilization that gave the world its soul. 5,000 years ago, when much of the world still wandered in small tribes, something remarkable was happening along the banks of the Indus River. In what we now call Pakistan and northwest India, a civilization was flourishing that would make even modern city planners marvel at its sophistication. Imagine waking up in Harappa or Mohenjo-daro, two of the greatest cities the ancient world had ever seen. The first thing you would notice is the silence, not the oppressive quiet of abandonment, but the peaceful hush of a society that had mastered the art of living in harmony. No palaces dominated the skyline, no monuments to egotistical kings scarred the landscape. Instead, neat rows of brick houses stretched toward the horizon, each one connected to a marvel of engineering that wouldn't be seen again for millennia, a sophisticated sewage and water system. As the sun painted the eastern sky in shades of rose and gold, you might watch a potter at her wheel, her hands moving with the fluid grace of generations of knowledge passed down through touch and intuition. The clay beneath her fingers was becoming a vessel that would last 4,000 years, waiting patiently in the earth for archaeologists to marvel at its perfect symmetry and elegant design. The streets were laid out in perfect grids, wider than many modern roads, designed to channel the cooling breezes that swept in from the Arabian Sea. Children played with toys that seemed startlingly familiar, wheeled carts, dolls with movable limbs, and whistles shaped like birds. A small girl might clutch a bronze dancing figure, its arms raised in eternal celebration, while her brother rolled a painted ball down the straight, well-paved street. Water was sacred here, as it has always been in India. The great bath of Mohenjo-daro, lined with bitumen to make it waterproof, served not just for cleansing the body but for purifying the spirit. Citizens would descend the carefully constructed steps into the warm water as the sun reached its zenith, emerging refreshed and renewed, ready for the gentle pace of afternoon activities. The people of the Indus Valley had discovered something precious, the art of living without extremes. Their cities show no signs of massive inequality, no evidence of warfare or conquest. Instead, we find standardized weights and measures, suggesting a society built on fairness and trust. Merchants could trade with confidence, knowing that a unit of grain in Harappa would be exactly the same as in settlements hundreds of miles away. In the workshops, craftsmen worked with materials that had traveled incredible distances, silver from Afghanistan, jade from Central Asia, shells from the distant shores of Gujarat. Yet this was accomplished without armies or forced tribute, simply through the patient building of relationships and the understanding that prosperity shared is prosperity multiplied. As evening approached, families would gather on their flat rooftops, the bricks still warm from the day's sun. The air would fill with the gentle murmur of conversation, perhaps stories being passed from grandmother to grandchild, or the soft chanting of prayers to deities whose names we have forgotten but whose presence we can still feel in the careful reverence with which these ancient people treated their world. The Indus Valley civilization reminds us that human greatness doesn't always announce itself with fanfare and monuments. Sometimes it whispers in the perfect alignment of a drain, the careful standardization of a brick, or the simple fact that for over 1,000 years, people found a way to live together in peace, prosperity, and mutual respect. As you drift deeper into rest, imagine yourself walking those ancient streets, feeling the cool evening breeze, and knowing that you are part of a community that has solved the greatest puzzle of all, how to live well together on this earth. The morning mist clings to the Ganges like a prayer made visible, and across the vast plains of northern India, a new dawn is breaking, not just of the day, but of a civilization that will give the world its deepest questions and most enduring answers. This is Vedic India, roughly 1500 to 500 BCE, where nomadic peoples from the northwest gradually merged with indigenous communities to create something entirely new, a society built around the rhythm of cosmic harmony. Picture a small village nestled between groves of sacred trees. The air is filled with the sound of lowing cattle, for these are the people who first understood that wealth lies not in gold or silver, but in the gentle creatures who give milk, pull plows, and provide leather and fuel. A cowherd boy, his skin bronzed by the sun, leads his charges to pasture while humming melodies that seem to echo the very vibrations of the universe. In the center of the village, smoke rises from the sacrificial fire that has been kept burning for months, perhaps years. This is not the crude offering of primitive peoples, but something far more sophisticated, a technology of consciousness, where fire becomes the messenger between earth and sky, between human longing and cosmic fulfillment. The priest, his voice trained from childhood to pronounce Sanskrit with mathematical precision, chants verses from the Rigveda, each syllable a carefully crafted vibration designed to align the microcosm of the community with the macrocosm of creation. The words he speaks are among the oldest religious poetry known to humanity, yet they feel as fresh as morning dew. Truth is one, sages call it by various names, an insight that will echo through centuries, teaching tolerance and unity in diversity long before these became political slogans. Life here moves in circles within circles, the daily rotation of duties, the monthly cycle of the moon, the yearly journey of the sun, and the vast cosmic cycles that measure time in millions of years. A young woman grinds grain with a stone that her grandmother used, and her grandmother's grandmother before her, while her daughter plays nearby, learning through observation the ancient art of creating nourishment from nature's gifts. The Vedic people discovered something remarkable about sound and consciousness. They realized that certain combinations of syllables, chanted with proper breath and intention, could alter states of awareness and create connections between the individual mind and the universal intelligence. In the pre-dawn hours, when the world balanced between night and day, specialists called hodas would begin the intricate process of vocal meditation, their voices weaving together like invisible threads binding earth to heaven. But this wasn't a world lost in abstract spirituality. These were practical people who invented the mathematical concept of zero, developed sophisticated astronomy, and created systems of medicine that treated not just symptoms but the whole person in relationship to their environment. A village physician might prescribe not just herbs, but specific mantras, particular times for treatment, and lifestyle changes that acknowledged the patient as part of a living, breathing cosmos. In the evenings, families would gather around fires that served simultaneously as kitchen, heating system, sacred altar, and social center. Children would listen wide-eyed to stories that weren't just entertainment but encoded wisdom, tales of gods and demons that were really about the eternal struggle between light and darkness, wisdom and ignorance, harmony and chaos, playing out both in the vast universe and in each human heart. The Vedic period teaches us about integration, how ancient peoples didn't separate the sacred from the practical, the spiritual from the everyday, the individual from the community or the community from the natural world. When a farmer plowed his field, he was participating in a cosmic dance. When a mother sang her baby to sleep, she was adding her voice to the music of the spheres. As you settle deeper into rest, feel yourself connected to this ancient rhythm, the breath moving in and out like the eternal tide of creation, your heartbeat joining the drumbeat of time itself, your dreams becoming part of the vast dreaming consciousness that the Vedic seers called Brahman, the one reality appearing as many, the eternal presence that sleeps in stones, dreams in plants, wakes in animals, and becomes self-aware in human beings. The year is 250 BCE, and across the largest empire the Indian subcontinent has ever known, the sun never sets on a realm that stretches from the Hindu Kush mountains in the northwest to the tropical forests of Karnataka in the south. This is the Mauryan Empire under Emperor Ashoka, a time when administrative genius merged with spiritual awakening to create what many consider ancient India's golden age. Imagine walking through the streets of Pataliputra, the imperial capital that Greek visitors compared favorably to the greatest cities of their known world. The wooden walls and towers rise majestically from the banks of the Ganges, but it's not the grandeur that strikes you first, it's the order, the prosperity, and the remarkable sense that you're witnessing a society that has learned the delicate art of governance without oppression. In the early morning light, the city awakens with purpose. Street sweepers, employed by the municipal government, clear the broad avenues while water carriers fill the public cisterns. This is no accident of nature, but the result of Chandragupta Maurya's administrative genius, later refined by his grandson Ashoka into something approaching the world's first welfare state. Down a side street, you might encounter Kautilya's spies, though you'd never know it. The great political theorist, author of the Arthashastra, created an intelligence network so sophisticated that it wouldn't be out of place in a modern thriller. But these agents weren't just gathering secrets, they were monitoring prices to prevent exploitation of the poor, checking on the quality of goods in the markets, and ensuring that officials weren't abusing their power. A prostitute might secretly report on foreign merchants, while a renunciate monk could be gathering intelligence on potential rebellions, all in service of an empire built on information rather than fear. The markets themselves were marvels of organization and diversity. Guilds of merchants had developed quality standards and ethical practices that made in Mauryan India, a guarantee of excellence from the Mediterranean to Southeast Asia. A spice merchant arranges his wares with artistic precision, cardamom pods like tiny green jewels, cinnamon bark curled like ancient scrolls, and black pepper so valuable it's measured out grain by grain. His prices are fixed by guild regulations, and his scales are checked regularly by government inspectors who report directly to the emperor. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Mauryan daily life was the transformation that occurred around 260 BCE, when Emperor Ashoka, sickened by the carnage of his conquest of Kalinga, embraced Buddhism and began implementing policies of non-violence and social welfare that were 2 millennia ahead of their time. Picture a royal edict being read in the marketplace, carved in stone and translated into local languages so every citizen could understand. Ashoka's voice reaches across the centuries, "I am never satisfied with my dispatch of business and my promptness. For the welfare of all people is something I must work for, and the root of that is in exertion and dispatch of business. This emperor, ruler of millions, personally reviewed judicial cases to ensure justice, established hospitals for both humans and animals, and created botanical gardens where medicinal herbs were cultivated and distributed free to those in need. In a small village on the empire's periphery, the transformation is equally evident. A local official, following Ashoka's edicts, has dug wells and planted mango groves along the roads. Travelers rest in the shade while children play nearby, their laughter mixing with the sound of water being drawn from depths that ensure the community will never thirst. The village headman settles disputes according to local custom but within the framework of imperial law that emphasizes rehabilitation over punishment, understanding over retribution. The day's rhythm here reflects the empire's values. Work begins early but stops during the hottest hours when everyone retreats to shaded courtyards for food and rest. Artisans, weavers, potters, metalworkers, jewelers, pursue their crafts with a patience that creates beauty as a natural byproduct of skill combined with time. A weaver at her loom doesn't just create cloth. She meditates in motion, each pass of the shuttle a prayer, each pattern a mandala that brings order to chaos. Children attend schools where they learn not just reading, writing, and arithmetic, but also dharma, the proper way to live in harmony with family, community, and cosmos. A young boy practices writing Sanskrit letters on a palm leaf, each character a work of art that connects him to the vast literature of his ancestors. His sister learns mathematics using concepts of zero and infinity that make India the world's most advanced mathematical civilization. As evening falls across the empire, monastery bells mingle with temple conch shells and the calls to prayer from various religious communities. Ashoka's policy of religious tolerance means that Buddhists, Jains, Brahmins, and local folk traditions coexist peacefully, each contributing to the rich tapestry of spiritual life. In the royal court, philosophers from different schools debate the nature of reality while astronomers calculate the movements of planets with precision that won't be matched elsewhere for centuries. The Mauryan period shows us what's possible when power serves wisdom rather than ego, when administration becomes a form of compassion, and when diversity is seen as strength rather than threat. As you drift into deeper rest, imagine yourself as a citizen of this remarkable empire, protected, prosperous, and free to pursue your highest potential in a society that has learned the greatest secret of all, that true power lies not in the ability to dominate others, but in the wisdom to serve the well-being of all. The evening raga drifts across the courtyard like incense made audible, each note perfectly placed in a mathematical sequence that can move listeners to tears or transport them to states of divine bliss. This is India during the Gupta period, roughly 320 to 550 CE, when human creativity reached heights that would influence art, science, and philosophy across Asia and beyond for the next 1,000 years. In the university city of Nalanda, perhaps the world's first international institution of higher learning, scholars from as far away as Korea and Turkey gather in libraries containing over 9 million manuscripts. Picture the gentle competition between students as they debate in Sanskrit, Tamil, and Pali, their minds sharpened by years of rigorous training in logic, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy. A young monk from Sri Lanka argues a fine point of Buddhist psychology with a Brahmin scholar from Kashmir, while nearby, a Chinese student takes careful notes on Indian surgical techniques that he will carry back to the Tang dynasty court. The morning light filters through carved stone screens, casting geometric patterns that dance across palm leaf manuscripts where revolutionary ideas are recorded in elegant scripts. Here, in these peaceful halls, Aryabhata calculates the circumference of the Earth with stunning accuracy, explains lunar eclipses as the Earth's shadow falling across the Moon, and develops mathematical concepts that will eventually reach Europe through Islamic scholars and transform human understanding of space and number. But the Gupta achievement wasn't confined to academic halls. In workshops throughout the empire, artisans were creating masterpieces that blend technical perfection with spiritual depth. Watch a sculptor in Mathura as he releases a statue of Buddha from a block of red sandstone, his tools guided not just by artistic vision but by precise mathematical proportions that ensure every curve and line serves both aesthetic beauty and religious meaning. The result is art that doesn't just depict enlightenment, it induces it. The Iron Pillar of Delhi, forged during this period, stands as testimony to metallurgical skills that modern science is only beginning to understand. Rising nearly 24 feet into the sky, composed of iron so pure and expertly treated that it has resisted rust for over 16 centuries, it bears Sanskrit inscriptions that sing the praises of kings while demonstrating the mathematical precision with which ancient Indian craftsmen approached their work. In the royal court at Ujjain, the legendary King Vikramaditya, possibly Chandragupta II, maintains a circle of 9 gems, scholars, and artists whose combined brilliance illuminates the age. Among them sits Kalidasa, whose poetry weaves together sensual beauty and philosophical profundity in ways that make Sanskrit literature the envy of world culture. His play, Shakuntala, tells a love story that is simultaneously a meditation on memory, recognition, and the eternal dance between human longing and cosmic order. The court mathematician demonstrates positional notation and the revolutionary concept of zero, explaining how this simple symbol representing nothingness makes infinite calculation possible. Nearby, the royal physician discusses surgical procedures described in Sushruta's medical texts, cataract removal, plastic surgery, and internal surgeries performed with instruments whose designs wouldn't be improved upon for centuries. In a more humble setting, far from the court's grandeur, daily life reflects the same spirit of excellence and integration. A village potter shapes clay with techniques passed down through generations, but each pot is also a meditation on form and function, beauty and utility. His wheels are turned by his feet in rhythms that match his breathing, creating vessels that seem to breathe with life themselves. Children play sophisticated games that secretly teach mathematical principles, logical thinking, and strategic planning. A group gathers around a game board marked in the dust, moving pieces according to rules that will eventually evolve into chess, another Indian gift to world culture. Their laughter mingles with the sound of temple bells and the evening calls of peacocks announcing the monsoon's approach. The monsoon itself becomes a character in this golden age. Poets celebrate its arrival with verses that capture both the relief it brings to the parched earth and its symbolic meaning as the descent of grace upon prepared souls. Farmers read the sky with expertise that modern meteorologists respect, timing their plantings according to wind patterns, cloud formations, and the behavior of birds and insects. In the great trading cities, merchants deal in goods that span continents: Chinese silk, Arabian horses, Roman gold coins, Burmese rubies, Sri Lankan pearls, but they operate according to ethical principles laid down in legal texts that consider the merchant's dharma as important as his profit. A spice trader ensures his weights are accurate not just from fear of punishment but from understanding that dishonesty poisons the soul of both cheater and cheated. The Gupta period shows us what happens when a civilization achieves that rare balance between material prosperity and spiritual development, between individual excellence and social harmony, between respect for tradition and openness to innovation. It's a time when the boundaries between art and science, between sacred and secular, between local and universal dissolve into a seamless whole. As the stars emerge in the clear night sky above this golden age, imagine yourself as part of this flowering, perhaps a student copying astronomical observations, a musician tuning an instrument according to mathematical ratios, or simply a citizen of a society that has learned to create beauty as naturally as breathing, and to pursue truth as joyfully as children at play. The sound of stone chisels rings across the Deccan Plateau like a symphony in percussion, as thousands of craftsmen transform living rock into prayers made manifest. This is medieval India, roughly 600 to 1200 CE, when the subcontinent became a canvas for some of humanity's most magnificent architectural achievements while maintaining trade networks that connected 3 continents and philosophical schools that pushed the boundaries of human understanding. At Ellora, in the heart of Maharashtra, something unprecedented is taking place. Hindu, Buddhist, and Jain communities work side by side, carving 34 magnificent temples directly from solid basalt cliffs. Picture the master architect of the Kailash temple, attempting something that seems impossible, to create Shiva's mountain home by removing 400,000 tons of rock from a single cliff face, working from the top down with no room for error. Each chisel blow is guided not just by artistic vision but by precise mathematical calculations that ensure the final structure will stand for centuries. The morning sun illuminates carved elephants the size of real elephants, celestial dancers frozen in eternal motion, and gods whose faces express emotions so subtle they seem to shift with the changing light. A young apprentice sculptor studies the way his master captures the divine smile of a bodhisattva, learning that true art requires not just technical skill but the ability to see beyond the stone to the consciousness it can embody. In the coastal cities of the Chola Empire, massive temple complexes serve as more than religious centers. They are universities, banks, hospitals, and cultural hubs that organize the entire rhythm of community life. The Brihadeshwara temple at Tanjavur, with its 200-foot tower crowned by a capstone weighing over 80 tons, stands as testimony to engineering capabilities that combined architectural audacity with sculptural refinement. Picture the daily procession as the bronze statue of Nataraja, Shiva as the cosmic dancer, is carried through the streets in a festival that transforms the entire city into a stage for cosmic drama. Citizens don't just watch this celebration, they become part of it, their own movements echoing the dance of creation, preservation, and transformation that the statue represents. The bronze itself, cast using techniques that create metal of startling beauty and durability, seems to glow with inner life as hundreds of oil lamps reflect from its perfectly proportioned surfaces. The same period sees the emergence of philosophical schools that will influence human thought for centuries to come. In the cool mountain air of Kashmir, Abhinavagupta develops aesthetic theories that understand art as a direct path to spiritual realization. His ideas about rasa, the emotional flavors that art can evoke, provide a framework for understanding how beauty serves not just as decoration but as a technology for expanding consciousness. Meanwhile, in Kerala, mathematicians work with infinite series and calculus concepts centuries before these appear in European mathematics. A scholar sits by lamplight, palm leaf manuscripts spread before him, working out the mathematical relationships that govern planetary motions while simultaneously exploring how these same principles apply to the rhythms of poetry and music. For these medieval Indian thinkers, the boundaries between different fields of knowledge are fluid. Mathematics is a form of mysticism, astronomy serves astrology, and art becomes a vehicle for philosophy. The great ports of Gujarat and the Malabar coast hum with commercial activity that would impress modern international traders. Ships arrive from Southeast Asia loaded with spices and precious woods, while others prepare to depart for the Arabian Peninsula carrying Indian textiles whose quality is legendary from Cordoba to Constantinople. A merchant from Somnath maintains trading relationships with partners he has never met, relying on credit systems and commercial law that function across thousands of miles and dozens of languages. But it's not just goods that travel these trade routes. Ideas flow like water, seeking their own level and mixing in combinations that create new possibilities. A Sufi mystic from Central Asia shares techniques of breath control with yogis in Rajasthan, while South Indian bronze casting techniques travel north to influence the art of Afghanistan and beyond. The medieval period shows us globalization at its most creative and enriching, before it became dominated by political conquest. In village settings, the same spirit of excellence manifests in humbler but equally remarkable ways. A weaver in Bengal creates textiles so fine they're called woven air, each thread placed with meditative precision. Her work requires not just technical skill but the ability to enter states of consciousness where the distinction between maker and made dissolves into pure creative flow. The medieval period also sees the full flowering of classical Indian dance, where every gesture becomes a mudra, a hand position that simultaneously tells a story, invokes a deity, and channels specific energies through the performer's body. A young dancer in Tamil Nadu spends hours perfecting the subtle eye movements that can express emotions ranging from devotion to cosmic rapture, learning that her art serves not just as entertainment but as a form of yoga that unites body, mind, and spirit. As this golden medieval period reaches its zenith, imagine yourself in a monastery courtyard where monks debate the nature of consciousness while copying manuscripts that preserve the wisdom of ages. The evening light filters through carved screens, and the air carries the fragrance of jasmine and the distant sound of temple bells. This is a civilization that has learned to make every human activity, from the grandest temple to the humblest cooking pot, an expression of the same underlying truth, that consciousness delights in manifesting itself through infinite forms of beauty, wisdom, and compassion. Feel yourself becoming part of this great flowering, where every breath is a prayer, every skillful action a form of worship, and every moment an opportunity to participate in the eternal dance of creation. As our journey through ancient India draws to a close, we find ourselves not at an ending but at a recognition that the rhythms, insights, and wisdom of this remarkable civilization continue to pulse through the world like an underground river, surfacing in moments of beauty, discovery, and understanding wherever human beings reach for their highest potential. The mathematical concepts developed by Indian scholars form the foundation of modern science and technology. Every time you use zero, perform decimal calculations, or apply algebraic principles, you're drawing from wells dug by minds that worked by lamplight in monasteries and royal courts thousands of years ago. The Vedic understanding of consciousness as fundamental to reality anticipates insights that quantum physics is only beginning to explore. The medical traditions of ancient India, with their emphasis on prevention, holistic treatment, and the interconnection between mind and body, offer wisdom that modern healthcare is rediscovering. The surgical procedures described in classical texts, the pharmaceutical knowledge encoded in Sanskrit verses, and the psychological insights of Buddhist and Hindu philosophy provide resources for healing that complement and enrich contemporary medicine. But perhaps most importantly, ancient India offers us a vision of what human civilization can become when it organizes itself around wisdom rather than mere power, when it sees diversity as strength rather than threat, and when it understands that individual fulfillment and collective well-being are not opposing goals but complementary aspects of a single flowering. The ancient Indian understanding of time as cyclical rather than linear suggests that nothing is ever truly lost, that the insights and achievements of past ages remain available to those who learn to listen carefully to the deeper currents of human experience. In our own age of rapid change and global challenges, we might do well to remember the Vedic teaching that truth is one, but the wise call it by many names. As you settle into the deepest levels of rest, carry with you the images and insights of this ancient land, the perfectly planned cities of the Indus Valley, the cosmic vision of Vedic civilization, the administrative wisdom of the Mauryas, the artistic achievements of the Guptas, and the magnificent temples that still stand as testimony to human aspiration made manifest in stone. Let your breathing slow to match the eternal rhythm that ancient India discovered, the breath of Brahman, the cosmic consciousness that sleeps in stones, dreams in plants, and awakens in human hearts. Feel yourself connected to the vast web of being that those ancient seers perceived, where every individual soul is both unique and part of the infinite whole. In your dreams tonight, may you walk the marble corridors of Nalanda University, feel the spray from the waterfalls at Ajanta, hear the morning ragas floating across the Ganges, and experience for yourself the peace that comes from knowing you are part of a story larger and more beautiful than any single lifetime can contain. Rest now in the knowledge that wisdom is eternal, that beauty endures beyond the civilizations that create it, and that the human capacity for transcendence, discovered and refined by countless generations of seekers in ancient India, remains as fresh and available today as it was when the first Vedic seer looked up at the star-filled sky and realized that the same consciousness looking out through human eyes was also looking back from every point of light in the infinite heavens above.